celebration of Di Ravello Week continues in the Mediterranean tourist destination of Medici. The annual festivities are held in honor of Medici's de facto head of state, General Sebastiano di Ravello.
This is pure insanity!
There. Ah, explosion averted.
Di Ravello's iron grip holds firm amidst numerous reports of human rights violations. Some dissenters are allegedly sentenced to forced labor, mining the mysterious material bavarium, while others seemingly just...
We've spent 2 episodes inside the system. Tropico puts us in the palace. Suzerain puts us in the cabinet room. But Just Cause 3 drops us on the outside. Rico Rodriguez is coming home to an island under military occupation. No elections to win, no coalition to build. The dictator is already in full control, and the only question is what it takes to remove him. Just Cause 3 never set out to be a political game, and that's exactly why it's in this series. Before we get to the rebellion, it's worth looking at what Rico actually is fighting for, because Just Cause 3 builds its authoritarian system into the environment. It doesn't tell you, you just see it. Political scientists use the term coercive capacity to describe a regime's ability to enforce its authority through force or the threat of it. Di Ravello's Medici is built around visible coercive capacity, checkpoints, military presence in civilian spaces, surveillance infrastructure. The point isn't just to control people, it's to make them aware they're being controlled. That awareness is itself a tool that changes behavior before any force is actually used. Buzz writes about how military-themed games produce what he calls everyday encounters with geopolitics. Moments where players absorb the logic of power and control through the experience of the game world rather than through explicit argument. Medici is that kind of encounter. The coercive infrastructure isn't background decoration, it's an argument about how authoritarian states make themselves felt in daily life. Compare that to Tropico's radio station and Suzerain's institutional pressure. Same function, completely different register. One is cheerful and cartoonish, one is quiet and psychological, one is soldiers in. The core loop of Just Cause 3 is liberation. Find a settlement under military control, destroy the regime's infrastructure, propaganda speakers, fuel tanks, surveillance systems, and hand back the town to the people. It's satisfying in the way action games are designed to be, and it's modeling something real. What's interesting about how the game structures liberation is it's not about winning hearts and minds. You don't liberate a town by convincing people, you liberate it by destroying the speakers and the fuel depots and the military hardware, and then the people will celebrate a lot. That raises a question that the game never answers. Is that liberation? The town is free from Di Ravello, but Rico just leveled half of it to get there. And the game moves on without asking what the town needs next. That gap between overthrowing a regime and actually rebuilding what comes after is not a game design oversight. It's historically recurring blind spot in how resistance get narrativized, like Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan. The story ends when the statue falls. What happens next is someone else's problem. Okay, this mission is pretty hard. This is where the game starts giving you enough information to ask hard questions, even if you never asked them itself.
Years in the making. Our inability to protect Malaya was easily predicted. It will be a trifle to recapture, but... The loss of vis electra. That is a failure that must not go unpunished. Right. Rico Rodriguez has become born of the same fire that gave rise to my reign. Soon, the world will know the extent of my power. He offers an opportunity for demonstration. Perhaps some motivation. The town of Costa del Porto. Burn it! And when he comes to protect the insignificant, kill his friend. Every action must and will incur a terrible reaction. And then the embers of the revolution will crumble to ash as they always have throughout history. Use the tanks.
You did this. You shoot your guns, you play at war, and they burn our homes.
Don't listen to him. We have to do this.
Got no choice. But I won't forget. The tanks are mine. You go into town, Mario.
We'll serve them up on a plate.
Just war theory, the ethical framework for evaluating whether and how violence is in conflict is justifiable, includes a principle called proportionality. The harm caused by military action must not excessively relate to the concrete military advantage gained. Rico fails this test constantly, and the game never noticed it. Ravello is unambiguously a monster. Rico's cause is unambiguously just. And Rico's still leaving a trail of destruction through civilian territory to get it done. The game presents that without comment, the same way Tropico presents the election rigging button without editorializing. The question of whether the ends justify the means is just sitting in the gameplay. You have to bring your own answer. Bell's framework of world-built consequence producing political reflection applies here, even though Just Cause 3 never intended political analysis. The game world is arguing something whether the developers meant to or not. That's the thesis of this entire series made visible in one game. One of the most politically interesting mechanics in Just Cause 3 is the propaganda infrastructure is literally a target. You don't just kill soldiers, you blow up the speakers. We talked in the Tropico episode about how propaganda works by shaping what people think is normal. Just Cause 3 shows you what happens when you physically remove it. The civilians don't become free in some deep philosophical sense, but something changes. The constant broadcast stops, and in that silence, something becomes possible that wasn't before. That's a sophisticated point about information control that the game makes purely through mechanics, no dialogue, no cutscene, just the before and after. Removing propaganda doesn't automatically truth or freedom, but it removes one of the mechanics that made resistance feel impossible. It changes what people think is thinkable. That's Medell's civic media literacy argument made playable. The game is training players to see propaganda infrastructure as a system with a logic, not just a background noise. Ravello isn't written as mindlessly evil. He has a logic. It's worth paying attention to. Almost every authoritarian leader in history has had a rationale, a reason why concentrated power is necessary right now for these people against these threats. Di Ravello's version is specific to Medici, but the structure of it is universal. Security, unity, protecting the nation from enemies, internal and external. For game developers and world builders watching this is the design note that matters most from this episode. A convincing authoritarian system needs a leader who believes in what he's doing, not a cartoon villain, something with a coherent, if wrong, worldview. Di Ravello is underdeveloped in this respect, and it's one of Just Cause 3's genuine weaknesses as a political text. The game knows what it's against, but it's less clear on why the thing it's against exists and persists. That gap is worth understanding because it's a gap you close in your own world building. The argument this episode is making, stated plainly. Just Cause 3 is the weakest intentional political text of the 4 games in this series. It doesn't set out to analyze power, it sets out to be a fun action game about blowing things up in a beautiful place. And it still ends up modeling coercive authority, propaganda infrastructure, insurgency ethics, and the gap between liberation and reconstruction. Because good world building produces political meaning, whether the developers intended it to or not. That's the thesis of this entire series. Just Cause 3 is the clearest proof of concept. Just Cause 3 is the loudest game in this series. Biggest explosions, fastest pace, most immediately fun to watch, and it's asking the most ethically uncomfortable question of the 4, quietly through gameplay, without ever realizing it's asked. The other games ask how you hold power and what you do with it. This one asks what it costs to take it away from someone who shouldn't have it, and whether that cost is ever fully accounted for. Next episode is the quiet one. Lawgivers 2 puts you inside the institution itself. Not the palace, not the resistance, just the legislature. And shows you what it looks like when democracy is working exactly as designed. And it's still this hard.